This story is definitely one of the family favorites. I alluded to it in the last podcast. I said it when I was in Florida, and I really wanted to be part of this series of the wisdom of unity. So without further ado, there was once a wonderful young man whose father-in-law lived near the town of Chernobyl. Having heard so many amazing things about the Magid of Chernoble, Rav Nachum, he decided to check it out for himself. When he arrived there as a skeptic, it didn't take long for this young man to be overwhelmed by the atmosphere of holiness in the Beis Medrash of Rav Nachum. The learning, the davening, it was on a totally different level than he was used to. Within a very short period of time, the young man became a chassid of the Magid. His father-in-law recognized right away the change in his son-in-law and was not impressed. What do you see in this Rav Nachum? I'm supporting you so you should be able to spend your days learning Torah. And instead you're going to spend your time by the Magid. With confidence, the young man said, my dear Shver, just come with me for one Shabbos and experience it for yourself. After the davening Friday night, the young man looked over to his Shver with a big smile. No, what do you think? I've seen davening like this other places. At each interval, not the davening, not the tish, not the divrei Torah. In short, the father-in-law was unimpressed. After Shabbos was over, he said to his son-in-law, I see no reason why I should be supporting you to learn when instead you're spending all of your time here. In fact, I'm going to the Magid to tell him what I think. Rav Nachum received the man with a great smile, and he heard everything he had to say. And he said, let me tell you a story. And here's the story that Rav Nachum told to the father-in-law. In the Galil, during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there was an older man who had never in his life been to the Beis Hamikdash. Every year he found another excuse why he didn't have to go. He was convinced that he could stay at home and still be a good Jew. And then finally it happened. One Shabbos, somebody put out the candle in the bathroom. It was apparent that the Saba, who sometimes can't make it through the night without going to the bathroom, inadvertently put out the candle. And now, after all these years, he's going to finally have to go to Yerushalayim and bring an offering for his transgression. Well, you can imagine, at every turn of the way, he asked people which way to Jerusalem, Tveria, Beit Shan, Yericho. Each time people laughed at him. You're an older man. You don't know where Yerushalayim is? Finally, he arrived at the gate of Jerusalem, and he said, which way to the Beis Hamikdash? And people snickered. Oh, you don't know where the Beis Hamikdash is? And then, when finally he came to the Beis Hamikdash, and he saw the Kohanim walking around barefoot, and the animals, and the blood, he was appalled. What's going on here? This looks like a kitchen. This looks like a slaughterhouse. Was this the holy temple he had imagined? He immediately said, I want to speak to the person in charge. I want to see the Cohen HaGadol. He expected to see some holy, elderly man. When he saw this young person dressed in a big day kahuna, he was unimpressed. What makes this place unique? And what makes you more special than anyone else? Why do people have to come here 3 times during the year? The Cohen HaGadol looked at the man and said, why have you come here? He said, I've transgressed unintentionally. Well, tell me, is this the only time that you've done a transgression in all of these years? With great confidence, he says, yeah. All of a sudden, then the stones on the breastplate started to light up. Beep, 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 beep. And the Kohen looked down and he says, well, what about last year when you swore falsely during a business deal? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But that was the only time. And then once again, the Kohen looked down. And once again, the breastplate started to light up. And what about the other time when you succumbed to your passions? And before the Kohen could say any more, the man said, "Oi, enough, say no more. Now I understand why people come to the Beis Hamikdash. The holiness of the place elevates a person. If I would have come here all these years, certainly I wouldn't have transgressed. As the Magid finished his story, he looked over at the father-in-law, and he was in shock. In a loving way, the Magid was able to relate the transgression that this man had committed. Rebbe, don't say anymore. Now I understand why my son-in-law feels a need to come here. And I think I'll join him. Everyone really loves this story. And for many reasons, it fits in so well with what we've been talking about in this series. The father-in-law couldn't understand the importance of connecting with tzaddikim. It was beyond his limited mindset. He thought he could stay at home and still be a good Jew. He couldn't fathom how connection to tzaddikim in the Beis Hamikdash could elevate him, inspire him, and help him not transgress. And especially his inability to grasp the loftiness of sacrifices, what we're talking about right now. We just spoke about this spectacular event, the Passover Lamb, where every single family traveled to the Holy Temple and everyone participated in the Korban Pesach. In this week's Parsha, Achrei Mos, which outlines in great detail the Yom Kippur service, the star of the day is just one man, the high priest. He alone performs the entire service to atone for the transgressions of the entire nation on one day when he enters the Holy of Holies. The verse in Proverbs, which is the book of parables, chapter 3, verse 15, says, Yakara hi mipnimim, more valuable than pearls. Many times throughout the Talmud, it explains this verse is talking about the Tzadik, someone who's a Talmud chuchum, who possesses DAAS, the wisdom of unity. He's greater than the Cohen HaGadol who goes lifnai ulifnim to the inner chamber, similar to pnimi. This aligns exactly to the Gemora that I've quoted many times. Great is both DAAS and Beis Hamikdash. Anyone who possesses DAAS, it's as if they built the Beis Hamikdash. The great Magid of Chernoble equates the two because they're one and the same. And now we're in the period of time, Sfiras HaOmer, leading up to the great Hilula, the festival of Lag BaOmer, the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai left this world. In weeks to come, I hope very much to talk more about Rabbi Shimon and the power of tzaddikim to mitigate harsh dins on the Jewish people. Through these great tzaddikim, may the world be full of DAAS, the wisdom of unity. And then the world will align with the third temple and Hashem will bring the Mashiach speedily in our days.